Sasquatch, also known as Bigfoot or Grassman. In the South, it's referred to as skunk ape or wood booger. And across the globe, Yeti, Yowie, and Yeren, to name a few. Every Native American tribe has a name for the beast, some as endearing as Big Brother, or as ominous as Boss of the Mountain. They've been depicted on the walls of caves for thousands of years. In 986 AD, Leif Erikson, after landing on the shores of what is now North America, wrote of being attacked by hairy, black-eyed giants. To date, there are over 11,000 reported sightings of these creatures worldwide. There is an abundance of physical, empirical, and anecdotal evidence of the existence of these seemingly human primates, yet it is still considered a myth. Our focus is not to research or try to prove Bigfoot exists, but to highlight the men and women whose lives have been changed by these creatures. Joined by my wife and co-host Linda, we will travel the country, interviewing, taking expedition, and visiting the locations where their life-altering journey began, opening the door and bringing to you their means, observations, and interactions with the man-like beast known as Bigfoot. I'm Kerry Arnold, and this is BIGFOOT Odyssey.
On this episode of BIGFOOT Odyssey, we're in the lush pine belt of south central Mississippi.
We're here with Doug and Karen Randall, founders of MBEST, the Mississippi Bigfoot Evidence Search Team. They're going to take us from the forming of MBEST to where they are now, habituating and having regular interactions with these creatures. We'll also hear from some of the field team members of MBEST. And as our bonus, we'll have a sit-down interview with Mr. M.K. Davis. Now, Doug and Karen Randall's Bigfoot Odyssey began with a modicum of interest and two questions. Does Bigfoot really exist? And if so, could they be in our neck of the woods? Though a trip to a Bigfoot conference would offer up enough to get them started, little did they know that one of the keys to their relative success would rest on the actions of one little family member named Shade.
Hope y'all enjoy the show.
Doug and Karen, we appreciate y'all having us out.
Glad to be here.
So tell us how you guys got all this started. Let's go from the beginning.
Well, we had just got our truck there, and we wanted to take it on a road trip, try it out, and I saw where they were having this conference in Arkansas, in Bologna, Arkansas. My cousin used to live there, so I wanted to go up there. So I called Karen. When she got home, I had to talk her into it a little bit, but you know, she didn't want to go. I said, well, let's go anyway. Let's just do it. We'll make a weekend out of it. So we went up there, sat through the Arkansas conference and listened to who we wanted to listen to, and it got boring after that. So one of our hobbies is we always went to these game management areas just to walk the dogs or just go take photos and have a good time. And we found one, we picked it out, and Karen guided me to it, you know, with a map. And well, as soon as we got there to the game management area, or the refuge, the wildlife refuge, we got a phone call from my stepdaughter saying that my grandchild had broke her arm. I pull over, she's talking to Liz on the phone about Riley, and I go out there. I had to do my business. I had to use the bathroom, and I'm sitting there using the bathroom, and out in the middle of this thing is this huge footprint. I mean, out in the middle of this swamp, I mean, it's like this, toes spread out, you can see the toes.
About how long do you think it was?
We couldn't get out there to it. I'm gonna say it was at least 18, 19 inches.
Let's take a look at this track. I think you'll see that there's no exaggeration. That is one massive foot. Doug said it was about 18 or 19 inches, and I doubt you can see it here, but he did say there were dermal ridges, and you can see the mid-tarsal break. It's a very wide track also, very impressive.
This was an overflow ditch from a swamp. When the swamp fills up, it overflows and goes down in this ditch and disperses that way. And I followed the creek all the way up to another sighting, reported sighting at Bald Knob at this lake. I mean, we found it by chance. That piqued our interest.
Crazy. We just stopped, randomly stopped. and he just randomly had to go to the bathroom, and there was the prints. But by the time we finished looking at it, there was one going, it's like it was a turn.
Yeah. Made a
And
dog
in the
leg
turn, you could see one set going that way, went through the middle, and one went around the side. And the one that went around the side had a small footprints with it.
18-inch track.
But then there was little ones about the size of my Coke can.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it just happened. So we got all excited, and we figured we'd call somebody that was at the conference and to let them come confirm. You know, it's good to have confirmation.
Figured they'd be interested.
Couldn't
Nobody
reach
cared.
anybody. Well, we went back the next day, and they were already, you know, because it's soft.
Mm-hmm.
They were already kind of losing their shape. And then when he went out on Tuesday, he said he didn't see our prints. But he went down further, and there was more prints, and then there was turtle shells ripped apart.
This brought us to a belief, though, when we found this, you know. This brought us, there's something to this, you know.
Well, he had been
'Cause
watching videos.
Just like everybody else, I started with the internet.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff they were showing was real. You could tell it was real. You know, it was really happening. And so that piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me started, got my interest in it. And after we left the conference, I told her, I said, well, let's get on the internet and let's start searching sightings in Mississippi. And we came across one at the Delta National. And I said, well, I know where this is. I've hunted there since the early 90s. And that's when we went there. And lo and behold, first time out there, I found them.
And now, Karen, you had a sighting.
There, yeah. It was kind of...
An aggressive encounter,
Yeah.
too.
It was,
Tell us about that.
we were just walking around there's this...
Well, it's the long bayou out there.
Bog right there.
Mhm.
Anyway, we were just kind of walking around, just looking at stuff, looking for tree
Cypress bark,
structures
pretty
or
much.
footprints or anything. And I caught something out of the side of my eyes, and I looked over, and whatever it was, it went from one bush to another, and then that bush to another, and then went either behind a tree or up a tree. I couldn't tell. But it was, I mean, then he started asking me, I said, look, but he was already gone.
Yeah, I was looking the other way, of course.
But he asked what did it look like. My most embarrassing video I said, I couldn't figure out what it was. I said, do squirrels jump up trees like that?
Man, my
And it's
smart ass
recorded.
remark.
I think squirrels do climb trees.
Yes, they do. I
Yeah,
don't know
and-
why.
but I said, if there's
was
a
so
70-pound
nervous, and-
squirrel out here,
I mean, I was just
I
kinda-
won't leave now.
That's right. He said
Because she
that.
said it was the size of Bobo. The back she saw of it was about the size of that 70-pound. But all she saw was the back and the hair hanging down.
Yeah, it was like about, I'd say 6 inches long, the hair hanging. And it was, so I could best describe it as an orangutan, but we don't have those around here.
No.
So
Well,
we
we
went,
don't have anything
and that's
around
what
here with
so we
6 inch
started,
long hair.
it scared the crap out of me, I'm telling you. I was so nervous, I didn't even know what I was saying. But so then we kind of eased over to where we saw it, just to see if
We
we
were
could
looking up the
find
trees.
anything, find it. And that's when the commotion started happening over on this direction.
Yeah,
It's
about
like,
30 yards away from us.
It was
Straight ahead.
it was a big crack, and then I look over and you know how in the movies and they have the big Godzilla whatever coming through the woods, and you see the trees falling towards you,
Right.
whatever. That's what I saw, was this tree falling towards us.
Well, yeah, I looked around. You were gone.
And then he says, "Yeah, let's go." So we
You were
eased
gone, so you
out.
Oh.
took off running?
Yeah, but I eased back to him because I didn't want to be by myself.
I wasn't running with her.
He was just
Right.
standing there. And I guess when we got our consensus,
We were 2 miles from the
we,
truck. Where's I gonna go?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I
Can't
can't run
outrun
that
him, so
far.
it was really, but it was just my reaction was I took off running, but not far, probably from the tree to the campers, probably all as far as I
But this
got.
came out of an 80-foot. This was 80 foot up in
Oh,
a tree,
yeah.
easy.
Yeah,
And
this
like I
big
said,
around?
the limb was this big around. I got
It's
I got
huge. We got
photos of
pictures
the
of
limb and
that.
everything.
This is the limb. It's very large and fresh. You can see it, and that's where it came from. Incredible.
But
And it just happened to fall right
Yeah,
there
it happened to
where
break while we were there.
I think we think it was an older
Yeah.
one trying to direct our attention away from the other one,
possibly.
the smaller one. Yeah.
So we just after that we went back another
I was so scared
weekend,
to
and
go back.
that's when it was that encounter there. This is what taught Shade what they were. It was that encounter because he went nuts and started chasing something. Well, the next weekend we went back and we had another encounter, and it was not far from where we were, but they were across the slough this time. And he sits down and he starts raising Cain across that. Well, as it's sitting there, I didn't know what I was seeing at first. Now I know what it was, but I seen a foot. You could see from here down You could see the ankle and the foot, and I seen it pick up in the bush, and that's all I seen. It looked like a shadow moving in there.
Now you talk about Shade. Shade is your dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Come here, Shade.
Come here, Shade.
Come here, bad boy.
He's our blue cur.
Now what's his normal reaction whenever these things are around?
He'll start doing this bark, and he'll start going like that. He's making that kind of bark, and then he starts getting aggressive toward the area, smelling, throwing his head up in the air, smelling.
And he doesn't do that any other time?
He doesn't do that any other time.
So every time that he's done that, you've gotten interaction around you?
Something.
I tried to catch him doing this in the field, but it was a pretty inactive day, but we did get this one spot here. Now, he stayed focused on that area for a little while, and I did smell something when we got up there. It smelled like BO and human feces, but it was pretty faint. And I'm pretty sure that's what he's smelling there. So I was able to smell it. I'm sure he smelled it. I didn't smell it anywhere else. But he gave us one more, and that was it. But Doug did give us some video of him doing this, and we'll go to that right now.
What are you looking at?
He definitely got a hit. He definitely smelled them.
Now you're probably thinking, what's special about a dog barking at something in the woods? Well, I was with him for about 10 hours over 2 days and never got any of that. He really is a special old dog. He was herding us pretty much the entire time we were in the field. Now here's some still shots of Shade in action.
Something they've encircled him before and scared the mess out of him too at Site 3.
I never seen him do that.
They scared him
Took
bad.
his tail. Yeah, he was scared.
Now I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people wanting to know if you put a GoPro on him.
I have.
We have.
I've got the harness in there. It just don't work good. It's
So
all
it's,
over the
you know,
place.
moving like, you know, it's hard
It's
to
better
see.
to just use him as a tool and film the direction he's barking or smelling, because he'll zero in, throwing that head up. He'll lock in on him.
He actually was. We got a photo of him when he's just standing up on his legs. sniffing
Yeah,
at the tree.
smelling by our
He's
gifting
standing up on
tree
his
at
back
Site
leg.
3. There's a photo where he's rearing up, smelling the air.
Now I did see him doing this, but it was at the camper and he was wanting a biscuit. Let's talk about MBEST. How did MBEST get started?
It started with that photo of that juvenile at Delta National we got. Remember?
You can see that face right there center screen in the V of that tree. You can see the hair, forehead, brow ridge, eyes. Very ugly. And the reason they're calling it juvenile, I guess, is if you look at the comparison, dug in the same place. A little bit different angle, but something definitely there. Creepy.
It started with that, and I said, well, you know, they got groups on Facebook. I mean, we didn't even know about Bigfoot groups on Facebook at the time. You know, we just started one. And then after we started one, well, you know, others started popping up, you know. I had no idea what I was getting into. Finding these things, Karen and I put sweat and blood into.
Oh, we know.
And yeah.
I mean, we walked miles and miles through swamp like this in 106-degree temperatures. And we went and found them.
Oh yeah, that day was about 104
Right.
one day. We had to walk a mile back. I thought I
No,
was
2
gonna die.
miles. 2
I
miles.
thought I was gonna die.
So what's your main focus here? What would you like to see done? So
We just want people. We just wanted to. I mean, it started, to be honest, because I had to know for myself. Then after that, you know, I just want people to be aware that these are real creatures. You know, these are creatures living in our forest, in our woods, here in Mississippi, which I never would have dreamed. You know, I thought maybe there was one Bigfoot walking all over America. You know,
And he's
I
lived
thought there
forever.
ain't no way he's in Mississippi. He might pass through every now and then, but the most shocking thing to us is how abundant they really are and where all you can find them. And how many, they're never alone.
No.
They're never alone.
And a lot of times when you see them, I mean, you can pick them out, the photo, but they're all over each other so that
Yeah.
they don't have the right shape.
They'll like
for
do
you
a
to find
pile
them.
up.
They look, they don't wouldn't look like what you think they'd look like.
We just try to go be amongst them and let them know that.
So what's some of the interactions that you have with them there?
Well, we've gotten vocals. They started out throwing rocks at us. That's how it started out. That's how we found them. We found a rock in the video. You know, we started out there, and it started out with them throwing rocks, breaking limbs, things like that. Well, once we started bringing them food, all that stopped. All of it stopped. Now, if we bring other people out there, they'll break limbs. They don't want the other people out there. We even have one. We're going to show you the site. I have the video where Red, we call it Red, he exposed himself to us. He sticks his head up, and he's just sitting there watching the truck.
This is the video. You can see it's right there, center screen, in there between those trees. The light tree and the dark tree right there in the middle is just to the right of the dark tree. It gets a little bit better here in a second. It's just half a head and a couple of eyes sticking out there. It's at the top left of the screen, just over Karen's head, right at the top edge. And I'll put up a still image of it here in just a second. It's not the best image in the world, and it's a little ambiguous. There's just not a lot of things in the woods that are that color and that shape. It looks like he's peeking out right between two sticks.
Yeah.
But we never would have known it was there if it wasn't for him. We were leaving because there was a tornado-warned storm. Lightning was popping, and you'll see on this road, trees fall across this road all the time when storms come. We can't go down it sometimes.
A truck came by and messed up our shot, and I was gonna cut that part out, but it ended up being kind of funny, so I left it in. Enjoy. 3 seconds, and you go back to.
Where was I at?
Start over. Start with the. Start where he starts talking about we go to feed them.
Yeah, I mean, when we started feeding them,
3 seconds.
a 1, 2, and 3. But when, you know, we started feeding them and all that stopped. All the rock throwing, the tree breaking stopped. But since then, we've gotten vocals. We've been able to put some things together that they're good theories about them, but we don't know that yet. We think they have a laryngeal sac because we picked up 2 vocals. We got a juvenile vocal and a an adult vocal. You can tell the difference. But with the male, you could hear that bloop, bloop. When it would do it, you could hear that laryngeal sac that primates have.
Well, let's check out these vocals. I'm going to turn the volume up on them, so fair warning.
We got one blinking in the bush right before all the sound was made. We videoed. You can see the eyes blinking in the bush, sitting there blinking.
Now let's check out the blinker. Keep an eye on this area right here. I've got it on a loop. Looks like it's blinking to me. Very cool.
On 2 different occasions now, we picked them up making this sound real low. It's almost inaudible to your ears, but you can't hear it. But you hear it better when you pick it up on video.
It makes us wonder how good their hearing is, that they can
Yeah,
each other.
make such a low tone and hear it from a distance.
Shade.
You know, we've never had a physical sighting there. I've seen them move bushes. I've seen them move a bunch of bushes like there was no wind blowing.
Right.
You know, but it looked like the wind was just knocking the bushes everywhere. And they were probably 40, 50 yards away.
And y'all tried different things. You've tried cameras backwards and...
Oh, that's how we first started, was we'd film behind us. We'd walk down the gravel road and film behind us.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it all started with us, is we'd do that. Now,
You'd see 'em.
this shade points them out. We don't have to film behind us all the time.
Right.
Because shade will let us know if they come in close. There is ancient swamp there. It's surrounded, speckled by houses and horse farms and different things. They don't never mess with anybody. They leave everybody alone.
Well, I mean, they obviously don't want to have anything to do with us, or we'd have
Yeah,
a whole lot better evidence than we do.
Right, but I mean, we have come a long way. It's taken almost 2 years now. But we have got them things where they will come in as close as 15 to 20 feet at times.
Yeah, so you are habituating with...
We are. I do not recommend this for anybody, especially not around your house.
Yeah, don't
Because
ever
when
do
you
that
start
out.
feeding them, the whole game changes.
They took us out to what they call the gifting tree. You can see the peach and apple pies up there. But what is interesting is if you look under the log, you'll see this stick sticking straight up and down, and it's under the log, so it didn't fall that way. Doug said that showed up the week before.
Yeah, the only real, I mean, we found another structure over here, but we found an arch structure at, it's an arch out at Site 3 with trees leaned on it, and you can see where they bent this tree down and rubbed it down another tree and shoved it in the ground. You can see where they took the bark off the tree.
Of course, we went out to check out this tree structure, and curiously enough, I saw a lot of tree bends in that area, so I think it's, to me, it looks like some kind of trend with these. But you can see there's the tree bark off, and that is definitely stuck down in the ground. Now, if you back away and look at this and do what you should do, which is try to debunk it, you could say, well, that tree could have fallen there and grabbed on that limb, pulled that down, the other tree could have fallen over on it. You know, that's, to me, that's a natural possibility until you go and look at the trees at the base. Now, there's other little things stuck in there and woven in there, little small stuff, but that right there, there's no stump. That was broken. It looked like it was broken when it was placed over there. And of course, I've got to go look, see where the stump is, and there's not one. So that was brought in there and put there. There's no other explanation in my mind for it. Alright, sun got on us a little bit and we had to do a little bit of relocating. But you have done a lot of video, a lot of audio. We're going to be able to show people some of that stuff.
They can go to our channel too. So.
Well, talk a little bit about that.
Well, we have a YouTube channel. It's we abbreviated MBVD is how you search, which stands for Mississippi Bigfoot Video Diaries, and they can be anywhere from 2 minutes long up to sometimes I'll show our whole adventure. And it's another little thing we did at the beginning of MBEST that we call Ride Along. It's kind of you go along with us, and it shows us walking through the woods, set up what we do, how we whoop, or if we would knock, or different things like that. It's just you're coming along with us, and we don't cut much out unless I get stubbed my toe and cuss or something. I'll cut that out.
We're going to be family friendly here.
Right, exactly. It's called Mississippi Bigfoot Video Diaries, and that's where we try to show people what we find. I do the best I can to bring it out.
Hey, you're going out at night with the infrared. Does he play into that any? I know
Not
y'all
really.
go in the vehicle
He's not big into the night side of it. He'll go lay back there and just sit there. I mean, if he smells them, he's going to let you know. But, a lot of times we don't have the window down because we don't want him jumping out. Or he'll be hanging out the window.
Yeah, right up the road here before, the windows were up. It was drizzling, and we we weren't feeling very well. So we were just out riding. We weren't actually out looking for anything. But all of a sudden he started doing his little barking thing, so we stopped.
That's
and
when
we
we got
looked
the white one
around,
on the ground.
and he saw that one with his own eyes.
Let's take a look at some stills at the one they call the gray blinker. You can see that gray, light gray right there in the middle of the screen. It's pretty far back there. Doug said about 100 yards. There's an enhancement of it. You can see it looks like two dark eyes there. And then here's a comparison. If you want to see the video, you can go to their site, the MBEST site, and you can see that thing covers the stump that Doug does, just barely fills it in.
I talked to a friend that said, hey, you need to go to this spot. There's a big hog population and there's a lot of cypress swamps out there. So this is where he was talking about. And so we were just riding out here to check out the area to see if it was researchable, searchable for evidence. And we turned around and it was the weirdest thing because Karen said, well, that's a good spot for him. And we didn't go 30 yards and Shade goes nuts. I mean, almost biting at the window.
And Bo was too. But
Bo don't
he
know.
was only barking because he was barking. But
if
anyway.
you make Bigfoot smell like a honey bun or a biscuit, never get away from Bubba. But other than that, if you don't smell like food, Bubba don't want to do it.
But we had no idea there was anything anywhere near us, and we just stopped when he started barking.
We were just riding.
And there it was.
Well, it's a good tool to have, especially when you're doing this.
Yeah, but I will forevermore kick myself, Carrie, for not walking out there.
I hear you.
Okay, now I know that Shade's with y'all all the time, but how does Shade play into it? Like when y'all are just riding around the truck, whether it's daytime or nighttime, how does he really play into it?
Well, he don't really bark at anything. I mean, unless it's a cow. He hates a cow. I guess it's because of herding dog in him, but he hates a cow. But unless it's a cow, he don't do anything. I mean, if a dog, he's a dog, if he rides by and sees another dog, he barks at it. But it's not the same bark. It's totally different the way he reacts. But you let him smell one of them, and I mean, it's a total different bark.
Well, I know that you're talking about no one knows. And anyone that's paid any attention to this subject knows that there are experts.
Yeah.
That I don't know what happens. I don't know if they get into it so much and they have so many theories that
theories going wild.
Well, they eventually start passing that off as fact. And a lot of the things they put out, there's just no possible way they can know it without direct observation. And I know that that's something that you guys don't do.
Yeah, we can't.
You'll tell. Yeah, well, that's right. You don't. You're not going to get. You keep a level of humility.
MBEST was started around evidence. That's what it's about. Evidence search team. And that's what it's about, is you gathering evidence. Because that's the only thing that's going to matter.
Speaking of evidence, let's go take a look at some of what I consider to be evidence that we found on this trip. We headed out of the campground. As you can see Shade there. That's quite a little dog. That's where we were camped, Bienville National Forest. And the areas, what they call Site 3 and 4, are really close by, just a few miles away from the campground. Shade with his ears skint back. The lovely Miss Linda Arnold. I had Doug stop along the way as I saw this tree bend. It's about 150 yards off a little dirt lease road, and just did not look natural. That is stuck down in the ground, and it actually broke. So I tried to pull it up. It might have already been fractured a little bit, but if you look, as much as I filmed, there's really nothing heavy in that area that could have fallen and pushed that down like that. And there are a few other mildly ambiguous tree bends in the area, but you figure if something did that one, they probably did the others also. We came across this along the way. I think it's pretty significant. It's a fresh green oak tree. It's not very big, but again, if you look, there's nothing really big enough in the area that looks like it could have fallen, taken it down. Now, could a couple of people have done that? Probably, but why? I mean, thinking on human terms, doesn't really appear to serve much of a purpose. Still pretty curious, to say the least. We made it to Site 3, and there's Shade doing what he does, leading the way like he already knows exactly where we're going. Doug took us up to look at this, and this is one of those things that it's just kind of hard to explain. You know, all those limbs are broken and appear to be drug in there. There's no limbs broken out of trees anywhere near. And that is a oak tree broken off at about 15 feet. Just snapped right over. And once again, nothing around close enough or big enough really to have done that. What's really curious to me is how clear it is everywhere else, except for in that one little area. There's MK and Bones discussing the possibilities. You can see how clear it is around everywhere else except for this one spot. This is the other side. And again, thinking on human terms, I would consider the possibility of it being some kind of blind, maybe to hunt at night. Who really knows? But it's definitely out of place. You can see there's another tree break, pretty fresh tree, and there were other small breaks in the area also. This was just baffling. Definitely not natural. Bent over with an old burned log holding it down. All this was right on the edge of the swamp. Now, this is the one that really blew me away, and everyone else that was there. Doug said it wasn't there the week before. Now, that is a fresh green oak tree, and not a small one. Someone tell me what does that. In the middle of the woods, pretty remote area, not very much traffic on those roads at all. And this is 20 feet from the gifting tree. Now, that's Bones checking out exactly how fresh it was. He said it still smelled really fresh. Obviously just a few days old. Absolutely incredible. Would really hate to run in to whatever did that.
Evidence is subjective too. You're going to get the negative reactions. You're going to get people that just want to nitpick, they just want to troll. We're going to love you anyway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You just watch and follow me and you'll see I'm not pulling your leg. Yeah, that's all you got to do is just watch and follow us.
And that's exactly what I suggest you guys do. Go check out Doug and Karen. You're not going to meet better people. I mean, a truly great couple. And I'm not just saying that because Linda and I are a part of MBEST. There's a reason we're a part of MBEST. Getting to know them, you can really appreciate just how humble and down to earth they are. As are all the field team members of MBEST that we met. Now let's hear from one of the field team members of MBEST, Bones. Bones, you are you're a core member of MBEST, member of the field team.
Mm-hmm. Well, since the beginning.
Wow, tell us how you got to be a part of that.
Well, basically, I just know Doug. You know, I've known him since junior high school, and when he started, I was right there with him. You know.
Now, have you had any
any type of notable experiences since you've been with them? Anything that's happened significant?
Well, significant. I've become convinced that there is really a thing out there, and you know, I'm like anybody else. Before I actually got out there and started looking, I was a skeptic. I just thought it was an imagination trip, a fantasy, a way to get out in the woods, even for some people. But with the evidence that I've seen and the rock throwing, tree shaking, stuff like that you can actually see sometimes, I've convinced that something's out there. I don't know what it is. I'm just like anybody else. I don't know exactly what it is, but something's happening.
Well, I think that's what we're all trying to figure out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what is this thing out here? I know that's what we're trying to do.
Well, that's what
anyway.
everybody's trying to do. I mean, you know, we gotta prove it before we know anything about it. You know.
Yeah, I believe that's going to be a little bit harder task than, or it would have already been done.
Yeah, yeah. But
Well,
you know, nothing worthwhile is easy. So.
Yeah. Well, we do believe this is worthwhile.
Oh, it is. I have a lot of fun.
Ideally to educate, but absolutely to try to enjoy doing it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And this, so like growing up, you never had any interest in the subject?
I never thought about it, never heard of it growing up. I grew up out in the woods between Florence and my grandparents' house down in Smith County, which backs up to the Bentonville National Forest, which we were over there today. Having never even heard of such a thing, you know, you just associate things you hear and see in the woods with just a natural part of being in the woods. You don't really think about what it is. Right. You know, a shadow moves off from behind the bushes over there. You go over there, there's no pig tracks, no deer tracks. You go to see what was over there, there's nothing there. You know, no indication of it. Bad smell sometimes, but no indication of anything else. You don't know what it was. And if you never heard of Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything like that, you wouldn't have thought that could be, you know. Trees being malformed and bent into what appear to be structures and symbols out in the woods. You see that, but again, if you never heard of such a thing, you wouldn't think anything of it. It's just something you see out in the woods, you know. You just overlook it, you know. Squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, you're concentrating on that, not what the trees are doing, you know. So, as I got older and you know, they started having the shows on TV and everything, I got to thinking back, well, you know, I've seen stuff like that before. I've heard stuff like that before, you know. And because I spent most of my childhood out in the woods, you know. School, straight to the woods, you know. Had a lot of fun when I was a kid. And then Doug started this, and I started going with him, and there's been several times I was with him up at Panther Swamp. I was there the day that they got the tree. They've got it on film. I think it's on YouTube. They've got the tree out in the background just being bent over violently, you know, and you can see the shadow of a big thing behind the tree bending it over. I was out there a couple of times when rocks were thrown at us, and there's a lot of water out there, Panther Swamp. It literally is a swamp. You know, something splashes in the water, it's going to be very obvious, and came from nowhere. Don't know where it came from.
What do you think these things are?
I don't think they're apes as we understand apes. I think they're probably closer to men. What kind, who knows? But the intelligence of them, the way that they walk and carry themselves, they're probably closer to humans than apes. I don't really have any way of answering any better than that. I mean, there's no way, until we get one and study it, how you gonna know?
Right, no, absolutely.
And I'm not...
No way of knowing right now. I don't know if anybody that I know actually knows.
As far as the multi-dimensional angle or the Bigfoots from outer space that I've seen on TV, I'm not so sure about that. It's, you know, it's a thing to think about, and it's no more provable, and it's really no more illegitimate a theory than anything else. But I don't really know what to think. There's something, but what?
Right.
You know.
Well, a big question on my mind, and probably on a few of the viewers' mind, is how long did it take you to grow that rocking beard, man?
I've been growing the beard since 2000.
And this is 2018.
I've had it down to here before, and I keep cutting it off to about this length right here because I drive a truck.
Right.
And when I'm backing up on the steering wheel, it'll get caught in that beard and snatch my head around. So, you know, about mid-chest is where I want it. But if I hadn't been cutting it off, it'd be, you know, stretching out to over where you are right now.
Right.
It look like Methuselah.
What an awesome guy. Very intelligent and down to earth. We really appreciate Bones taking the time to talk to us. Now let's go meet field team member Marcus. All right, we're here with Mr. Marcus Ellis. He is a member of MBEST, official member. How did you get to be a member of MBEST?
I met Doug and Karen early last year when we came to Site 3, actually. MK and I, we had been talking back and forth with Doug for a long time and had become friends. And MK and I were out that morning, actually in another town, another city, working on another investigation, a little project we had been working on. And we got a phone call that they were coming over here to Site 3. And we drove on over, and that was my first time to meet Doug, Karen, and Shade. And I officially joined up with them first part of this year.
Well, what got you interested in Bigfoot?
As a kid, in the early 70s, you know, you had that big paranormal boom, so to speak. You know, you had the big UFO thing, you had Loch Ness Monster, Yeti, you had all that Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, all that stuff was really coming to the forefront of the news, and it just captured my attention as a young kid. And then I saw the Patterson film, and right behind that I saw The Legend of Boggy Creek. And I was hooked in, you know, I was just absolutely just, I couldn't let go. Been reading up and studying everything I could ever since.
Well, what kind of notable experiences have you had since you started doing this?
I've had a bunch.
Most notable.
Too many to talk about. I would say probably the most notable was right here at Site 3. The day that we came over, we pulled up. Doug and Karen parked over here. Me and MK parked over there where we are now. The minute MK cut the ignition off of the Jeep, it sounded like a bull elephant went crashing down through those woods, just limbs snapping, trees breaking. It was tremendous. And we hadn't even got out of the vehicles yet. We had the windows down, and we're looking across at each other going like, did you hear that? Of course we did. We get out of the Jeep, and I'm over there on that side. I step out, and something goes crashing through the woods like another bull elephant, like somebody picked up a bulldozer and just throw the bulldozer down through the woods. And we haven't even gone into the woods yet. Excuse me. So we went on down into the woods. We went over to the site where Doug puts, you know, his apples and things like that. And evidently something was on over watching us, because Doug caught that with his eye. We walked over to where he was, and there was this little clearing. You could see a little clearing right there at the edge of the woods. Woods, a section of clearing, and then more woods. And at the edge of the far tree line, there was this one tree. There was no wind blowing that day. It was this one tree, and it was just rocking back and forth. I mean, it was doing the Watusi. And we heard different wood knocks and things. So we went over to the swampy area. We found an old footprint, a very clear old footprint. We came back, and then we went to this structure. And when I say it was a structure, I thought for a split second I had walked into McDonald's. It was like the McDonald's arches. And Doug had been telling us about it, and we examined the area, and you could tell this was not natural. This had been done by something extremely strong. It wasn't natural at all. It wasn't snow load. It wasn't the wind or anything like that. It was too massive. It was too big to have, you know, just been done naturally. So as we're standing there looking at this structure, Karen had decided to stay over on the road. She didn't want to come up into the woods. So she's standing over by the woods, and all of a sudden there was a loud wood knock, a single wood knock. I mean, clock. And right behind that wood knock, over to my right, there was a bush. And the bush was probably about 6 foot tall, and it just started just shaking. I mean, violently shaking. And about that time, Doug goes, well, I think we need to move on out of here. So we left, and as we were leaving, we stepped across this big log, and there was a nice footprint. It wasn't very wide, but it was long, and you could tell it was a footprint. So I would say out of the year and a half I've been coming into the field, and I've had a lot of experiences, to be honest. I don't mean to brag. I've been blessed to have had it happen. But I would say here at Site 3 was probably, without a doubt, the most exciting.
We truly appreciate Marcus taking the time to talk to us. Just a ton of knowledge and experience, and you're not going to meet a nicer guy. We really appreciate it, Marcus. Now, a sit-down interview with Mr. M.K. Davis.
We're here with Mr. M.K. Davis. How you doing today, M.K.?
I'm fine. How are you?
We appreciate you being out here with us in beautiful South Mississippi.
Well, thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all ours. What we want to talk about was what I think a lot of people are interested in. Obviously, you've done significant work with the Patterson-Gimlin film. And then some of your own breakdowns and videos of Bigfoot in West Texas and different places. But you weren't a Bigfooter originally, were you?
No, I guess every Bigfooter has a starting place, but I was, as far as what I pursued, was astrophotography. I had a large telescope. I had it outfitted for tracking, so I could track stars or whatever. And then I took time to photographs. And then I would take the film and enhance it. Some of the things that I took pictures of, you couldn't even see with the scope. It just took time in photos to get them. And you would do little tricks in the darkroom to get, the very faint things to show, to boost contrast and things like that. So I developed a skill set with that, and then one day I came across a couple of frames from the Patterson film. Somebody had posted on the internet. I looked at them, and they had been filtered much the same way you would filter an astrophoto to see, the faint things better. And I knew then somebody had been working with this film, trying to get it into a better presentable form. And I said, well, if that didn't come from a bad film, those two frames came from a very good film. And so there must be another version of the film out there somewhere that they don't show on television that would perhaps tell their own story if all the frames were done that way. And so I began an inquiry, and the inquiry led me to Oregon and then other places, and people began to help me that had connections to the film, and I began to assemble a collection of high-quality photos from the film itself, and I made my way on back to the original. So perhaps I have the best versions of the film there are.
Well, I think so.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, people do comparisons. I think the best two would be what you've done and what Munns has done. But Munns didn't do anything with the film itself. I think you're the only one that's really done anything significant as far as bringing out the clarity and actually seeing more of what's on the film.
Well, I admire anyone who's willing to take up this kind of thing. And Bill Munns has done good work. There's certain things that I have to offer that he doesn't know anything about, and I'm sure vice versa. What I do is what I'm skilled at, and what I've seen on the film has been an inspiration to me to keep at it and to try to get it in its best possible form. And once having done that, then you can look at the film and you can make up, have an educated decision about whether you think it's real or not. And then if it is real, well, what does it mean? What does it mean to the average person? And does this or should it cause a person to embark upon his own pursuit? It's a lot easier to chase after something if you know positively it's there than it is to just chase something that might be there. So that film has served that purpose. And the very first time that I got some of the lensing defects out of the frames, called chromatic aberration by filtration, I did that. And then I brought everything to center, stabilized it, and put everything ready to go. About 2 in the morning, I hit the preview button, and my jaw dropped at how good that film was. So it affected me because you could see things on the film that were biomechanical in nature that you see every day in life. Whenever you go out into the world, you see people's shoulders moving and muscles moving. And so I knew then that what I was looking at was authentic and real. But the next question was, what is it? What is the nature of it? So the inquiry, the direction of the inquiry kind of changed. And so I began to look into that. And so it's taken me all over the country. I'm still just as mesmerized when I look at that film today as I was the first time that night.
I am too, and I would press anyone to go and check out MK's work on the Patterson-Gimlin film. It's absolutely amazing. But there are, aside from that, you've got some pretty significant stuff that I've watched over and over and over. And the main one that comes to my mind, and I've had a few other people that I've talked to wanted me to ask you about the fence climber.
Yeah,
that's significant.
Yeah, that's another video that when I first received the video, it was on a 6-hour long cassette, and you had to watch the cassette and watch the same scene for quite a while. Then all of a sudden, you have some action. So if you go get coffee, you could come back and never have the fence climber. But I did catch it, and we did some work on it, and then began to analyze it. I made a trip to the place where it was shot. I was able to get measurements. It begins to take on a good bit more validity once you do that, because you begin to see that some of the stuff that you're seeing on there would be nearly impossible for the average person to do. Once you know that fence height is where it is, and that when he walks down the fence almost on all fours, if not on all fours, his back's level with that fence. And then later on, I got a photograph of that fence taken by those researchers at the time, and that fence was 5 feet or more, and his back was level with it.
Well, if you watch the film and you put the comparison up there, the things hip is even with your head. Now, you're 5'10", 5'11".
Well, I'm not that tall, but I'm tall enough that
it's significant.
Right. It tells you that it's not. If it's somebody that's really oddly, very tall and oddly built.
Yes, definitely, definitely very tall and a massive foot.
I got the story behind the fence climber after a good while after I first saw it from a person who was a part of that group, and it was his camera that took it, and it was really surprised me because these researchers had been going out there every weekend. That for 4 years they had gone out there, and and they had seen this set of tires that somebody had thrown off a bridge, way off through the woods, and so they noticed that during the night the tires would be over here, over there, moved. So they got a chain and chained them all together. And then that seemed to provoke activity, because now they couldn't just play with them, you know. So they started, I hate to say, use the word making a mistake, but they started slipping up a little bit, and they weren't as shy. They started to make vocalizations, and they got very frustrated. They recorded them during the night with constantly running recorders. You know, they would be throwing these tires around. They were really angry that they were chained up, and so they saw that. So they took the tires and towed them up into a tree and hung them on a tree, and they pushed the entire tree down and got them back. So this went on and on and on and on until they started to work those tires back toward the home place. And so over time, they made their way back, and at the time that you see the fence climber, they had them staked out in that garden with a stake driven in the ground and a chain to the stake. And that's the whole entire goal of the fence climber, was to try to retrieve those tires. They were obsessed with it.
Huh.
And it was not just the fence climber, it was two others. And if you watch the whole video, you can see that all of them are trying to get to that set of tires. And so it's, you know, that's an unexpected and odd set of circumstances.
The whole thing was strange to me. There's a series of films that you did with this man in this area, and what I thought was just absolutely bizarre. I think was at the couch stuck up in the tree that I saw there.
Yeah. They had that all kinds of that. I saw that when I went out there.
How does that get up there? You know.
Well, they also tires. You know, they put tires up in the tree. I've got some still photos of tires in trees.
Well, you can see somebody putting a tire in a tree. I don't see somebody, even 2 or 3 people, putting a couch up in a tree. I just don't see it. Maybe it could happen, but I mean, you obviously see what's there.
Once you've seen the videos, within the other stuff kind of takes on a little more
right.
Importance, because you would probably, raise an eyebrow at a couch up in a tree, but somebody must have hoisted it up there, but you don't think Bigfoot don't run. That's not the first thing that comes into your mind, but if you've seen the rest of it, then it is.
Right. Absolutely. Now you've done. You did some filming, I think, out in the Bluff Creek area, and incidentally caught what I think is a juvenile on the edge of the creek playing with a little white bag. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, if you had seen what we saw in the way of evidence there that day, we saw a lot of trees broken in a circle out on the sandbar that were, some of them were like 3 inches, 4 inches, and one of them had been split from a heavy weight being pushed straight down on it, and it just split at the bottom. We saw that. We saw a little fetus-looking thing laying in the water. It looked like to me it looked like a fetus. It had little appendages on it and a tube, somebody said maybe it was fish guts, but they're not any fish that size in Bluff Creek. Bluff Creek is only the biggest fish they have in there is a little small, like this. Now somebody could have brought a fish in from Klamath River, but that's 25 miles away. But we found that, and it was just downstream from where this individual was that we filmed. Then we went up on the mountain, about 1,500 to 2,000 feet up, and found this, what I consider to be a lair. It was on a 45-degree slope. It was level, and it had a little waterfall, a little brook, and it had animal bones that had been broken open, and the marrow sucked out, and then tracks all around in there. And we had found all that before I took the film. So I left my two friends up there because they were coming down real slow. They both had foot problems, and I came on down, crossed the creek, came up the creek, and went back out into the creek, and I filmed upstream and downstream, and I was going to wait on them to come up, get into the creek and come toward me, and I was going to film them. And I had filmed this individual and didn't know it. It was in the shade, and I was looking at a small viewfinder, and I just didn't see him. And I walked toward, I could hear them coming, and I walked toward them, and I walked right by this thing. I call him an individual because, you know, I don't have it locked down that it's a Bigfoot, but nearly so. And maybe it might have been probably from here to that tree, maybe from me.
That's pretty close. That's 15 feet.
I never saw it, but I had still pictures that I took because my camera would switch between video and still. And the still, I could see the ends of its knees sticking out of the brush. It had backed up in the brush. And about maybe a month earlier, there had been firefighters in there fighting some fires in there. And I think that may be where that white thing came from.
The bag. It looked like a bag.
It looked like a bag or cloth or something. But whatever it was wrapping something up with it. And it seemed to just fold it, wrap it up. You could see that something was in it. And it set it over here.
It didn't look like very human behavior to me. Especially if they knew you were there.
It didn't appear to even know I was there or see me because the sound of the creek is pretty loud. But I heard a rock clack. You can hear it on the video. And that's when it began to pay attention, and it did its little shuffle back up into the brush.
I think maybe it was getting a warning.
So there was another one there somewhere, I assume. When I got home, like I told you, a friend of mine who was, he had lost his job and he was starting a business selling stock footage. And I told him I had this scenery from Northern California that, you know, he might want to, you know, he's welcome to it. So I loaned him the tape, and I never got it back. And it took me 7 years to get that tape back. So I'm looking at it after I get it back 7 years after the fact, and I see it on the tape. I see that little white thing move, and it was most anticlimactic thing to find Bigfoot on your tape 7 years later.
Right.
You know.
Totally unexpected.
And so, you know, it's a big disappointment for me because I would have loved to have said, hey, you know,
sure,
just got back from Bluff Creek. I've got Bigfoot. but nevertheless, it's part of the frustration. But not just frustration, but I also felt good about it. You know, I had mixed feelings.
Sure.
But I went ahead and just put it up there. And it did serve a good purpose because some Japanese contacted me after watching the video, and they wanted me to take them out there. So I got to go back out there again, and that's when I found those deep prints. So it kind of led to more things. So it's a positive thing, you know.
Sure. Absolutely.
Even though it's a bit disappointing.
Now, do you have people send you a lot of things to break down?
I do. I get quite a bit of requests, and I only have so much time, so I don't like to prioritize or say anyone's better than anyone else.
Right.
But you know, I like to have a certain standard to start with. You know, and there
Well,
again,
that's pretty obvious.
A person's eyes can see so much more than a camera can, and a lot of times they're there and they see this or that, and they look at their video and they're disappointed, and they wondering if I could get their video up to the level their eyes were.
Right.
And sometimes you can improve it, but a lot of times you can't. And so if I get a video like that, if I can't improve it, I just say I defer to the witness. You know, I won't say that there's not a Bigfoot on there. Well, maybe it was, but you know, I can't make it so obvious that people know that what they're looking at.
Right.
And so that it's kind of a running joke in the Bigfoot world about blurriness. You know, that you have a clear picture where it can't be Bigfoot because it's too clear. You know, so that's kind of, you know, it's developed over the years, and with digital. Used to be when you went out to take a picture of a Bigfoot, it cost you something. You know, you had to pay for film and developing, and you just didn't frivolously take pictures. So now digital, you know, you can keep what you want, or delete the rest. Right. No development required. So people are just taking lots and lots of pictures. And when you zoom in on the pictures and everything kind of pixelizes, and then certain things. I had a picture of my son, and you could zoom in on him and swear he was a Bigfoot. But when you backed out, you could see it was my son. You know, so you know that kind of thing. And that's been a source of real frustration, because in the digital world that we live in now, it's unlike the Patterson film. It doesn't carry the weight that the Patterson film did, because people aren't aware that they could be looking at a manipulated image or a misinterpreted zoom.
Yeah, that's a problem. I was talking to Doug about someone told him he was terrible at CGI, and Doug said, "You're right. I am terrible at CGI. I don't even know how to do it." You're absolutely right. So, and that's a problem that anybody's going to run into nowadays. It's all subjective. Whatever your view is.
Well, people want an answer in 30 seconds or less. Sure. That's the big problem that we used to get in all of our sensations, all of our media recordings. We know what they are in 30 seconds or less, or we drop them. I had some video that I took in Honey Island. Took a picture of an abandoned campsite that had been ramshackled, trashed. People said, well, that's a homeless person, and he's gone to the streets. He'll be back. And I showed a picture from the air I took with my drone. It was a highway from miles.
Anybody that would want to live in Honey Island, other than the Cajuns that live way back in there.
Well, the point is that the people take their own life experiences. What they heard, what they thought was a highway, was a spillway with a waterfall. But immediately their mind goes to I see a homeless camp next to a highway, and the homeless person will be back. He's gone to beg or panhandle or whatever, and that was dropped subject. It's explained.
Explained away.
But not really. It wasn't explained at all. And so that's another thing that's a source of frustration.
Well, attention to detail. Attention to detail's gone by the wayside, and people lower your standards for evidence will enjoy the subject a whole lot more, I think.
You can't explain things away. It's better to wait on an explanation than be dismissive. And so I've learned that over the years too. So if I can't tell, I just say I can't tell. I said go back there, try to get another video, try to get a better video. So don't give up. We need people.
Definitely. Yeah. You know, so Lynn and I were talking about, we would really love to see more people out doing the video encounters. You know, not that the podcast his day is over, but more people, you hear these stories so much, but to actually go out to the place, hear the story, and see where it is. I hope more people take that initiative to get out there and do that. We would love to see that.
Yeah, my whole thrust of my program that I recently gave in Texas was trying to get people to. I showed this latest version of the Patterson film that's probably the best there is, and I said, take a look, make up your own mind that if you think it's real or not, and does it move you to want to try. Does it tell you that it's not impossible? It should. That you're trying to do an improbable thing, but not impossible, because it's been done. And so Bigfoot needs you. You know, we need people, boots on the ground. Boots on the ground.
We want to thank Mr. M.K. Davis for making the trip down and giving us an excellent ending to our show. Thank you again, Mr. Davis. Well, we made it back home.
Hey, guys.
What an awesome trip. A relatively short trip for us. Since we live in South Mississippi, it was only a couple hours north of here. But Doug and Karen Randall, what an awesome couple. I mean, very, very humble.
Down to earth.
Very
down to earth people.
Their feet are on the ground, for sure. The whole MBEST field team was there. The whole core, the field team. With Marcus, Bones, myself, M.K. Davis was there.
Doug and Karen,
of course. And Shade, that dog.
He's a trip. He's spoiled.
When we first got there, I was positive that dog was going to make the whole show. And of course, you just watched the show. And not that he didn't. But the dog was, that's a smart little dog. He's the booger dog. He's a good little tool to have.
He's tiny. I was expecting him to be bigger, but he's a tiny dog.
Yeah, for the kind of dog he is, he's a small dog. But had a really good time. Rained on us a little bit.
Just a little one morning. It wasn't too bad, though.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. But we had a really good shoot. Got to see some very interesting things. The structures, the things, the stuff that we put in this show. And Doug and Karen have a ton of stuff that we just couldn't put it all in the show. I mean, you can go to MBEST on YouTube and see a lot of their stuff. And, they have the Facebook group. And if anybody wants to join the Facebook group, just request. You can usually find us there. Just send a request to Doug or to MBEST, and Doug will more than likely let you in. But of course, we're gonna try to reply to everyone that comments on this show. We'll try to do that on every show.
Usually that will be Kerry. He gets to them before I do. So
I have a lot more.
You have more time
Most
to do that.
Most of the time,
yeah.
I have a lot more free time. You're right. But we have a show coming up in Central Ohio. Stacy Derrick and his family, man, they have got a ton of activity.
Right around their house, yeah.
The whole family has had encounters. Stacy's had several encounters, his son, his daughter, and that's going to be a really good show. And he has actually started a group called the Explorers. And our bonus feature for that show is going to be talking to a few of those guys. And from what I hear, they've had plenty of their own experiences, and of course we'll be on location showing those places and having them tell their tales, But how about M.K. Davis?
I loved MK.
She fell in love with M.K.
I
Davis.
did. Mr. MK is probably one of the most humble people you could ever meet. He didn't have a bad word to say.
He would not say anything bad about anybody.
No.
And not that we did, but he is he's just a really, really nice man. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, it's definitely a treat. And you want to talk about a wellspring of knowledge. And I'm not just talking about Bigfoot stuff. I mean, it's everything. Whatever you want to talk about. He's probably delved into it at one point or another, but just a really, really nice man.
Very well educated, very well versed. I mean,
yeah. Well,
I can't see him not carrying a conversation on with anyone. I mean, he just is very good.
Right. Well, everybody was nice. I mean, Doug and Karen, of course, Bones and Marcus. just some of the nicest people you want to meet. I mean, not unlike most people you meet from South Mississippi. Most people you would meet from South Mississippi.
No, they welcomed us, I mean, like they had known us forever.
Right.
So
That's exactly how it felt.
It was very relaxing.
Yes.
So what do you want to come out of this film?
Out of this, what I'd like to see come out of every film is prompting more people, hopefully, to get out there and shoot video encounters. You know, we're not in competition with anybody. We're just going to do what we do and hope people like it. But there's, you know, there's no funding available for this. There's not. And regardless of what some people think, and some people do think this, there are no grants. There's mainstream science doesn't have anyone out there studying this. It's on us. And the funding comes from you. Now, we're not asking people for money. We do this on our own dime, and we're okay with that. You know, with the frequency that we put out shows, it's okay. Now, who knows? Things can happen. If we have to put out a show every week, we may be coming to you. But there are some people I wanna mention that they've either started or have talked about doing video encounters, and these are people that we support. Nathan Rio, Utah Sasquatch, he started doing video encounters. The guys down south, Mark and Chris, Trail to Bigfoot guys. Snowwalker Prime, Michael Merchant and Lady K, they're doing video encounters. And I believe Bob Gimlin, not to be confused with Patterson Gimlin. It's Bob, Gymlan, Bob Gimlin. I just heard somebody, I could just hear somebody saying, honey, that redneck guy from that Bigfoot show's spelling again.
He can't spell.
Yes, I can.
He can spell it. He spelled that one right.
Anyway, Bob Gimlin, and you know, and not, those are the ones that I know of that are going to do the video encounter thing.
And the brothers.
But there are some that do the podcast that we
Right.
support. Of course, Dustin Duncan, our partner, Crypto PTSD, DDoS and Bigfoot Dogman Research Project, Cryptid Brothers, Lance Lane and Bill Hightower. You know, this is who we support, and some of these guys need support. I mean, if you even remotely enjoy what we're putting out, imagine what some of these guys can do if they had the means. So support them. Support anybody you believe in. Anybody that you believe is in this for the right reasons. Their heart is in the right place, and they just want to see the subject expand, or they want to learn, you know, like we do. Those are all the things that we want out of this.
I think that's the one given question for everyone is, okay, what's really out there? So
Yeah.
I think that's something that, like he said, the ones we support, that's what they're trying to figure out. What's going on? Where's this?
Right. Ideally to educate, but absolutely to entertain. And we do our best at that. We're just going to give it to you straight most of the time. Whatever you see on there is exactly what we saw. But do we have anything else? I think we covered everything.
I think that's it. I mean, you got everything put together and
Yeah.
did a good job on that. So
I appreciate that.
I'm so glad I don't do that. That's his part completely. So I think that was it. You know, I hope everybody did enjoy it. We'll be doing another one next month.
Yeah.
So,
Ohio, Grassman trip.
which is not 2 hours from home. It's a long trip.
Anyway, for our partner, Dustin Duncan, for Crypto PTSD, Doug and Karen Randall from MBEST, my beautiful wife, Linda, I'm Kerry Arnold. Hope you guys join us on the next Bigfoot Odyssey.
Good night, guys.
Hey guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the show. And don't forget to hit that notifications button. Also, don't forget to check out our partner podcast, Crypto PTSD with Dustin Duncan. And a big shout out to superfan Tammy Evans. Thanks, Tammy.